Hello, you're listening to Pyro for ShowerGamer.com. This is a trial run for a podcast, or perhaps I might turn into a video cast. This will just be my musings on random gaming things. I'm kind of hoping to turn it into a work through of my Steam backlog with some accompanying reviews. It could be interesting. We all have those Steam backlogs, and it takes quite a bit to get through them all. I'm not quite sure what format this will turn into, but this kind of spiraled out of a conversation I had with a bunch of friends this past weekend at PAX, and that will be the first topic we have here. This was my 8th PAX in attendance here, PAX Prime in Seattle. I actually bought tickets for 9, but never attended one. I couldn't find those tickets. This PAX was quite well run, especially over the past 2 years, as they've kind of added capacity, added the 4th day, Monday. I think they really improved online management quite a bit, so it was much more enjoyable walking around. They got rid of the queue line and expanded the expo hall into there for some more exhibits, gave it some wider pathways, and that I think really helped out the flow of traffic. I also saw fewer people taking pictures of cosplay. There were some signs out, don't take cosplay pictures in the aisle, and that helped too. But in general, the lines were just fantastic. They didn't intrude into the aisle. I didn't see a bunch of crowds. It was a really good experience this year. I also had a friend, it was his first PAX, and it's just really neat to see the wonder in his eyes as he's looking around, seeing everything for the first time. You just don't get that sort of visual aspect of all the games laid out. I guess you take that with a grain of salt, because I haven't been to any other gaming conventions aside from PAX Prime. So maybe you can get that anywhere, but I don't know. PAX Prime for me is just really everything that I love about gaming and about the internet. Gabe and Tycho are two great guys. I love hearing them speak every year. So, well, he doesn't know about the Penny Arcade side of things, just going around the expo hall. He's getting all this free swag. He's doing everything that he can, and he's standing in line, and he's playing games, and he's trying to get extra free lanyards out of exhibitors and stuff. It was just really fun to watch it again, because it's been so long for me since I've had that initial experience of being at a convention. And now that there's something like 80,000 people, it's just, it's really overwhelming. So it was really kind of neat to walk him through, hey, let's go here, hey, there's a 6th floor over here, did you see this one where you can try out the Oculus? It was really a neat experience. So I did try out the Oculus for the first time. It was an interesting game called Pollen, where you are on a space station. You're sent there because the original crew disappeared, and so of course they send just one person up there. That makes a lot of sense. Why would you send a whole team to rescue the other team? But they send you up there, and you have to figure out what has gone on by interacting with the world around you. What's interesting for that for me is that there's no combat in the game at all. It's just exploration, more like Myst or something. So it was really neat. They had 2 of the developer kit Oculus set up, and you could try it out. So the line was a lot shorter than the Oculus line itself. I only waited in line about 15 minutes on the beginning of Saturday. But what I found out was that I get insanely motion sick on the Oculus. At least that Oculus. I did talk to a couple of my friends who did the normal Oculus line, as well as Pollen, and they also got motion sick on Pollen, but not on the regular Oculus. Now, the new Oculuses are higher def, better screens. The definition of the game itself is higher content, or higher resolution. So I've heard that helps with the motion sickness. I'm not sure, but for me, pollen was just I had to stop early. I was like, no, I can't do it. So I'm interested to try another Oculus game, something maybe higher def on one of the newer Oculuses. It would be neat. I do some flying sims, um, which could be really fun with the Oculus. Certainly, I know things like Track IR are really popular with that. I've never personally tried a Track IR, but the moving around with your head while you're moving in another direction while you're flying has never been an issue. I know it's a little different with the Oculus, but I'm interested to see how that goes. Um, so it was really interesting to me. The environment was really neat in Pollen, but the motion sick really got to me. I did try out a Samsung Gear VR, Samsung's little thing. It looks like you hook a phone into it for your screen and run your application through it. That was standing in one place and looking around, so you're not moving forward and looking in a different direction, which is really where I started getting disoriented and motion sick. Was particularly when my head was turned to the side and I was then turning my body to try to get things lined back up. If I was moving straight forward or back or strafing side to side, that was okay. It was turning and moving at the same time where I really had problems with the motion sickness. But I should disclaimer that with I get motion sick on roller coasters too, so that's not unheard of and not unexpected for me. Just a little disappointing, I guess. So I guess I'm looking forward to Pollen. It looks like it'll be interesting. It's been a long time since I've played a game without any sort of combat, especially in the first-person mode, which is my preferred mode of gaming. And I'm really looking forward to what they end up putting out, even if I have to play it on a monitor. Looking at it from a monitor instead of Oculus, the graphics looked just fine. In the Oculus, they did look a little lower definition, and I think that did hurt my experience with the Oculus. So we'll see what comes of that game. I think it's due out next quarter. And the devs seem like nice people, of course. I don't think of very many devs who haven't. So I'm looking forward to that. What other games did we see? There was, of course, the Battlefront trailer before the Q&A. That looked fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Despite all of the rumors that have come out on the internet, and I'm not a big fan of EA, I guess, in terms of their business practices. Definitely looking forward to getting a first look at Battlefront. So we'll see how that goes too. Did some World of Warships. I already played that. I knew that going into it, but there was a sweet pin and a free t-shirt. This year was the first year I really kind of got into pins and collecting and getting up super early to get there to get the limited edition PAX pin. Standing in line for an hour for that, for a $15 pin. I can definitely see, it seems ridiculous to me, but it was a really neat looking pin, and I all my friends had it. None of them wanted to give me a copy, so I had to do it myself. There was also a neat Star Wars pin from Star Wars Uprising. It's a new free-to-play mobile game coming out from Kabam Studios. They're based out of California. What's interesting about that is it's going to be canon, set between episode 6 and 7 coming out, and 2, it is going to be co-op. They said they had 3-player co-op. They're hoping to expand it to 4 before release next month, and it's inter-OS operable, so I can play it on my Android with someone on iOS. You can play together in co-op mode. That seems fantastic. I did talk to one of the devs about the future of the game. Monetization seems okay, mostly cosmetic, some weapons, nothing that should be pay to win. They were very well aware of that and trying to avoid that. And then there's a campaign to play through. And so I asked, what's it going to be like after you're done with the campaign? How do you continue? How do you plan on continuing to develop the game and get money for development? And the idea is that you get through the campaign, and then there is going to be a universe. And as the community plays through the game, it's going to unlock parts of the universe, new planets, new storylines that they develop will get unlocked, and you'll be able to play them in co-op mode with your friends. And that idea of this expanding universe that continues to develop as you play it, and the fact that the communities play will impact the game and the future of the game is very ambitious, and I'm looking forward to playing that one in particular. I mean, who doesn't want to have an impact on the universe? And, you know, there have been so many games where there have been so many games where they've told you you're going to have an impact on a universe, and then you never end up seeing the universe, right? A game I love to play, and you'll probably see some footage over this, is Mechwarrior Online, and you were sold with this idea that there would be a giant community warfare module with a persistent universe, and you would be fighting Intersphere versus clans, and that would impact the map and the storyline, and you know, none of that's panned out in 3 years. So I'll be curious to see how that works on a mobile phase with a mobile free-to-play game. You know, those typically tend to be a little bit more casual gaming. It's going to be more of a narrative, and you know, that'll be fed to you as the consumer because it is canon. Also curious to see what happens with the canon story there. I'm really trying to avoid Episode 7 spoilers. I've of course been burned on Star Wars movies in the past. I grew up watching the box set, and so when the special editions came out in the 90s of Star Wars, I was super excited to see them in theaters. You know, and I'm like 12 at the time. And of course, they're cool to see in theaters, but, you know, the added scenes and stuff really didn't jive well with me, even at that young age. And then, of course, seeing episodes 1, 2, and 3 in theaters, I'm very skeptical, but cautiously optimistic about how Disney is going to approach the movies. And everything that I've seen so far looks good. But, you know, they're being very piecemeal with the material, and it's supposed to look good. So we'll see how that ends up going. So here's the interesting thing about PAX, and probably about all gaming conventions, especially when you're going as an attendee, not as media, not as someone they're trying to sell a game to. You're judging these games after waiting a half hour or more in line. I didn't wait in line for more than a half hour for any game, but I know people that waited 2.5 hours for Minecraft. And so you're waiting in line anticipating the game, and then you play it for 10, maybe 15 minutes, and that's all the time you have to judge on it unless you go back and play it again. So, for instance, I played Dreadnought, a terrestrial but space combat game. You're looking at giant capital ships that look like they should be in space, but you're in a terrestrial environment. And it's a slower paced game, which is something that appeals to me. But you're also not moving very fast, which feels right for the ships that you're playing, but doesn't necessarily lend itself to a great game because you're not able to dodge quickly. Once someone's firing at you, it's very hard to get them to stop. At that point, you're basically trying to out DPS them. There are some tactical abilities you can use, some special abilities that are on cooldown timers that sort of affect that, but in 10 minutes I basically found that if I was up against a ship that started off with more health, or was a larger, tougher ship than mine, I was dead once they started shooting at me, you know, even if I got some first shots off. There's not a lot of cover, you're flying around. Um, Moving forward and back was pretty slow. Turning also rotated you on an axis, it didn't strafe you side to side. And so dodging and weaving didn't seem that much. However, you could ascend and descend comparatively quickly, and so that was kind of the only move I found to try and dodge. So it made it interesting. It's something I'll probably check out. Probably look at some more Let's Plays when it does come out. My friend, the one who was at PAX for the first time, played it. It wasn't his thing, but he's a fast-paced Twitch sort of player. He doesn't like the slower-paced games, which I do. I just don't have those Twitch reflexes. So, you're judging this game in 10 minutes, which is not a lot of time. You're basically getting a first impression. I don't know. I have a friend in the media. Maybe I will ask how they think of reviewing games. If they get longer than that 10 minutes, I don't know. I know they don't wait in line. They can make an appointment to come by, which is fine. Except when I was going to play Poland, I got booted out of my seat because the exhibitors had forgotten media was there with an appointment. But I think when you're waiting in line, you're anticipating the game, you're watching footage of the game, you're watching other people play it, that's almost more of your experience with the game than the 10 minutes of hands-on is watching the footage of people playing live. And it's not the best way to judge. It is decent. I mean, I found a game, Bombshell. It's a top-down shooter, and I'll probably pick that up when it comes out. The devs were super cool. The game was more interesting than I thought it would be, and the character was decently compelling. Um, but like Dreadnought, yeah, I don't know. But it's tough. You watch a TV show, and the first episode might not hook you. To be honest, the first episode of Archer didn't hook me in either, and now I love the show. Firefly took me almost half the season before I really got into it and got to know the characters. And I know, TV and movies aren't quite the same as games, but 15 minutes isn't a lot of time to judge a game. Especially if there's storyline to introduce and a character to introduce. You really just don't know enough about what's going on to actually, judge the story of the characters properly. As far as gameplay goes, you get a bit of an idea of the combat, the movement feel, the weapon feel in 10 minutes, but not a ton, and certainly not enough to really get to know a class in a game like Dreadnought well enough in that 10 minutes to know if you're going to like it, if you're going to like to play that class in that game. And it can take time to get used to a class before you're even halfway decent with it to be, effective as a player. I guess the one benefit you do have is that most of the players have played for 10 minutes as well, as long as you have, unless they've gone through line a couple times, and then you're still looking at a maximum of 30 minutes of game time with stopping in between. So you're at least playing against players who haven't played a ton, at least in an unreleased game like Dreadnought. Playing World of Warships from Wargaming was fun for me because I've played it for a few months. I played it in the closed beta, and you're playing against people who have no idea. It was fun running around in a destroyer and just blowing up ship after ship. A little mean. Maybe I'm sure on the receiving end I wouldn't have appreciated it, but it was fun to do for 15 minutes after waiting in that line as well. And you got a free T-shirt and a pin out of it, so there wasn't a lot to lose for me there. But you know, I have to wonder what it's like to be an exhibitor at one of these things and watching people judge your game on 15 minutes. Most people that I see are polite. Oh yeah, that was fun. They're not harping or hounding on the game after 10 minutes. But with 80,000 people, you got to figure someone there's doing it. And I do kind of wonder if the exhibitors ever get someone who harshly judges their game and after only 10 minutes of playing. Unless it's an absolutely terrible game, it would be tough to judge it as such. Even Pollen, where I had a negative experience with it, getting sick after playing it, the environment still seemed very rich, and there was positives to the game, um, even if it didn't look the best while playing it through the Oculus, and it didn't, obviously didn't jive with me playing it with the Oculus. But yeah, I could see myself playing it on a regular screen. Even maybe sitting on the couch and playing it. I'm normally a desk player, but that could be one where you're in a rich environment sort of thing with some nice surround sound. Could be really fun to play on the couch too. So I might give that a shot. Maybe Steam OS box. I'm not sure if it has a Steam release. So I think that's all the time we're gonna have today. I'm gonna try and keep these a little shorter. We'll see how that goes. How much I end up rambling. To be honest, this is pretty unusual for me. I don't normally talk this much, so it's kind of bringing me out of my comfort zone a little bit. You'll get some ums and pauses and things like that, and I'm sure that's something I can work on and learn, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. So, signing out for now.